Hello, guys, and welcome to another episode of the Double Pivot podcast. We are back after a short break again. Sorry, we haven't been able to put out regular podcasts, but hopefully, will be more regular from now on. I have two good friends of mine, Zayan Babu Khan, who's joining us today for the first time on the Double Pivot podcast, and Abu Bakr is returning also. We'll talk about the Champions League games which just ended yesterday, and then we'll do a preview of the Premier League weekend games coming up. Obviously, the big one, Liverpool versus Man City, and then we'll also talk about how the title race is shaping up and the top four races coming along. So, how you guys, Zayan? How you doing? Good to have you.
I'm fine. Just a little bit busy with work and whatnot, but otherwise all good.
For sure, for sure. I like your background, bro.
Thanks.
How
It
you
was
doing,
from
Abu
a
Bakr?
few years ago.
I'm good. I'm good. It's good to be back.
Right. I mean, good day out for you guys, especially Chelsea. I mean, because we're starting off with the Champions League games, which happened yesterday. I mean, English teams did well, barring United, but coming to Chelsea first, good performance. And if you could tell us about the performance, and first, and then Abu probably.
So I think we started very well, and we got a penalty very early on. Werner, he stepped up, unlike Jorginho, and I think that's kind of a relief. I think Abu Bakr will agree with me on that. And then Ren were, taking control, and then I think there was a dubious penalty and a red card which followed. And I think that really swung the tie. But I think credit to Ren, they really fought hard. But I think for Chelsea now, it's I think our fifth consecutive clean sheet,
Yeah.
and our signings are gelling in well with the rest of the squad. So I mean, things are looking pretty good overall. And of course, we're top of the Champions League group as it stands.
Yeah, Abu, what do you think? I mean, how has Mendy and I mean Thiago Silva helped? I mean, what has changed recently that Chelsea has been looking solid at the back and then also looking good in the front?
Yeah, the additions of Mendy and Thiago Silva have been really important for Chelsea. Obviously, Kepa had lost his confidence, and having a reliable goalkeeper who's in command of the back line makes a huge difference. And
Yeah,
Mendy is doing all of that. And also, obviously, Thiago Silva, really experienced player, has played almost every tournament in the world, and he brings a lot of calmness, composure to the defense.
yeah,
And also, another change Lampard has made is he's playing Kante as the lone CDM. He did not in the Champions League, but that is something I've been hoping
yeah,
he would do, because Kante, as you know, he's the best CDM in his position. So yeah, I'm pretty happy with the defensive shape, and our attack is now gelling well, and we're
yeah,
scoring some really good goals. Werner is on fire. Ziyech has started off his career really well. So
yeah,
yeah, I'm pretty happy.
yeah. I mean, just before moving on to other teams, Van, who else has caught your eye? I mean, I think Chilwell and fullbacks Reece James. I mean, they're doing pretty well, being stable. And then going forward, who's impressed you? I mean, Ziyech obviously has, I think, had a good start now.
Yeah. So I mean, I would love to see Pulisic play more with our current forwards. Unfortunately, injuries have
Yeah,
hampered his start of the season.
yeah,
I think otherwise, I think forward wise, almost everyone has played. But
yeah,
I think in center midfield, I think Mount has actually done really well when he's played in his preferred role
yeah,
rather than on the left wing. And I think Abu Bakr summed it up pretty well with the other guys.
yeah,
In regards to our forwards, but I think also want to mention Tammy Abraham. He's come into the team in recent weeks, and he's
linked up well. Yeah,
he's playing like he started the way he
yeah,
started last season. He's playing something similarly, and then also I think he's improved some aspects of his game, such as hold up play and link up and all that,
yeah.
rather than just being a poacher. So I think these signings have also helped him elevate his game overall.
Right. I mean, that's Chelsea. I mean, we'll move on. I mean, we didn't watch the. I mean, I don't think any of us watched the United or Man City game. Did any of you catch those games? Because I mean, I was watching the
Uh,
Liverpool win. I mean, Man City. I mean, straightforward win, and then obviously Man United lost to the Turkish side. I mean, the problems for Solskjaer. I mean, they won versus Paris Saint Germain, but I mean, again, clear signs that there's a lot of inconsistency for Man United. What do you have to say, Abu?
yeah, I caught up with the highlights of the game,
Yeah,
and the first goal they conceded was some terrible defending.
yeah,
Dembaba was clear through from I think the halfway line, and he just had a one-on-one. And even the second goal was I don't know some horrible defending. Three players, it looked like they were marking each other, and the guy who scored the goal was left alone.
yeah,
So yeah, United have a lot of problems now. I think Bruno Fernandes has slowly dropped off form, and now he's not carrying the team. And like I said in a previous podcast, if United's front four fire, they'll be good. But now that their front four isn't firing, it's looking like a
struggling.
really tough
Yeah,
season for them.
yeah. Then and then I wanted to ask you, Zan, about Liverpool. I mean, Atalanta. I mean, were said to be the biggest test in that group. I mean, obviously Ajax, but I think Atalanta were the bigger test. So I mean, going away and then being giving a convincing performance, I think was a big statement from Liverpool. What do you have to say? I mean, Jota 3 goals, hat trick, and
Yeah, I
then
think
yeah,
I honestly they I think the injury to Van Dijk has not actually hampered them. In a
hampered them.
way,
Yeah,
they're actually
people thought.
playing with
Yeah,
much more confidence than they were playing initially in the start of the season. I
yeah,
think Jota has brought a different element which
yeah,
Firmino was lacking. He's also tailed off in form.
yeah,
So I think he'll give a good competition to each one of the front three. And then, the other day, last weekend in the Premier League, Shaqiri also played a brilliant cameo.
yeah,
So I think, Liverpool are actually
chipping away.
doing a
Yeah,
little bit better than expected. But,
yeah,
I think these signings have helped, the team hasn't
stagnated.
stagnated in any way.
Yeah,
And of course, you have Thiago Alcantara, but then he's
yeah,
had his
hasn't. Yeah,
misses this week
yeah,
in recent weeks.
right. So, I mean, yeah, good performance for Liverpool. I mean, before moving on to the Premier League, we'll talk about Man City versus Liverpool. And then I wanted to just say in the Champions League, who else, I mean, has caught your eye in general? Like, I mean, Bayern again, favorites. Any other teams you think are doing well? I mean, both of you probably. I mean, I think Real Madrid won versus Inter Milan. That was a good result. But Bayern obviously are big favorites, right?
Hmm. Yeah, I think Bayern, they're just, I think out of every other team in the Champions League, they're probably the most complete. But then, of course, group stages are kind of the baby steps.
Yeah,
Round of 16, you can draw against anyone, and I think anyone on their day can cause an upset. So I think that's the beauty of the Champions League. Like no one's sure shot favorite, but I think overall Bayern would be the favorites. I
yeah,
think for me, from what I've seen, probably as potential dark horses. I think Lazio have done very well,
that's it. Yeah,
uh, and they have Inzaghi is doing a good job, and they have brilliant individual players as well. So I think they're one team to look out for, in my opinion.
right. I mean, I think that's pretty much it for the Champions League we're going to talk about. We'll talk about the big game. Moving on to the Premier League, Liverpool versus Man City. I think games at Etihad. So I mean, Liverpool haven't done well in the recent times, especially. I mean, I think the last 2 3 seasons they've lost 5-0 or something along those lines. So not happy hunting around for Klopp, but. Big game, nevertheless. And Abu, what do you think? How do you see the game panning out? Abu, I'll start with you.
Yeah, like you said about Etihad,
Yeah,
this season I don't think home advantage plays a big role because there's no fans.
yeah,
Uh, so yeah, that's there. And City this season, I think, like I
yeah,
said
good.
in other previous podcasts, their attack has not fired like the previous seasons, but their defense looks more stable than last season. they haven't conceded many goals,
But
and
still, I mean, they've lost drop
also
points.
yeah, they've dropped points, but Gabriel Jesus is returning,
Yeah,
so they'll now have a proper number nine. And for Liverpool, I think Van Dijk is a huge loss, but they've
yeah,
been coping well without him.
yeah,
And their front three is firing. Jota is playing really well.
yeah,
So yeah, I think it'll be a really good game to watch.
yeah,
But I really cannot predict what's going to happen because of the way the Premier League is going on right now.
yeah. Then, tactically, how do you see it going? I mean, do you see Klopp sticking with Jota, or would you have Firmino in, or would you play the both of them? I mean, Thiago might be back, Matip might be back. So, Liverpool slight favorites for you, or how do you see it going?
So, answering your first question, I think,
Yeah,
obviously, Liverpool better than myself, but then
yeah,
I personally feel Firmino would be the better option to start off because you have Ruben Diaz, who's obviously new to the Premier League and
yeah,
he's fairly young. I think he may not have a proper idea of how to deal with the false nine, the way Firmino play, maybe the way Liverpool play. So,
yeah,
that could make a difference. But then I think Jota off the bench can be devastating if
yeah,
the game is level or City is losing, on the counter. I
yeah,
think Liverpool can rip them apart. But then coming back to your second question regarding how I see the game going on,
yeah.
I think this might be a City win in my opinion.
Yeah.
Sorry about that. But then
No, no,
uh, but
no love
then
lost.
but I just feel I've seen a few games this season from Man City, and I think they've just been so unlucky.
Yeah,
They're creating chances, getting the right spots. They're just not been able to finish. Of course, they're also missing their strikers.
yeah,
So, and of course, I think one big factor that might make a difference in this game is you have Trent, who's not had the best start of the season. Maybe he's not the best right back in the world in terms
yeah,
of one-on-one
mm,
defending, and he doesn't have Van Dijk in defense to maybe show a little bit more guidance because of course he is still young, even though he's one of the best right backs in the world. But I think what's the guy's name? I think it's Phillips or Williams or something.
I
The
think,
other center back.
yeah, Reece Williams. I think
Yeah.
Reece Williams
Oh
played on the
yeah.
Champions League, but I think Nat Phillips
Yeah,
might
I know
also
it's
get a
one
game.
of
Yeah,
those
yeah,
center backs. So both of them obviously not as experienced.
yeah,
And with the striker coming back and City, being unlucky, I don't think they can be unlucky every single game. So
yeah,
I think that will be a big factor, and Liverpool are bound to
yeah,
concede, in my opinion. But I think they will also score. It'll still be a good game.
yeah. I mean, talking about significance, I mean, how do you think how big game do you think is? I mean, if Liverpool win, they're I think 8 points clear of Man City, even I think with the game in hand. But that's a lot of points for Liverpool. I think. Abu, do you think it's a really big game? Like, I think Man City must win for Man City.
Yeah, I think it is for Man City
Yeah,
because even last season, Liverpool had a huge gap
around
at the start
November.
of the season, and then
Yeah,
yeah, and then City were playing catch up the whole season. And when you're playing catch up, the pressure is on you.
yeah,
But having said that, Liverpool haven't been perfect in the Premier League this
yeah,
season.
yeah, yeah,
They've been going behind and then having to come back and win. Uh, so I really don't think Liverpool will have it easy this game. I'm predicting a draw.
I mean, if I think if Thiago starts, I think Liverpool will be in a better position to control because otherwise at the Etihad they always sometimes struggle with Man City's
Yeah,
intensity. So
yeah. Obviously, the midfield battle is going to be really key.
yeah,
Both teams usually play 4-3-3.
yeah,
Uh, Klopp might play if he starts Jota, he might play 4-2-3-1 like he does sometimes. But I don't think he'll start Jota. So
yeah,
yeah, the midfield battle will be really key. And like Zayan said, Liverpool's wing backs. Last season, I remember, I think it was at Anfield. The wing backs combined
yeah.
to
For the Salah goal, yeah,
uh,
versus Man
for
City.
for one goal. Yeah,
Yeah,
they played a really important role. So yeah, That's it.
Fascinating game. Yeah, I've been looking forward to it. Personally, that's one of my favorite games in the Premier League because two attacking teams and it's always fun with goals. And then
Hamza, I
we'll
just
move.
wanted to add
Yeah,
before
for sure.
before we move on, I just wanted to ask you a question.
Yeah,
Do you now
definitely.
see Man City as a bigger rival than Man United in terms of, overall, or
Uh,
this is the game I want to watch more than that kind
I
of thing?
think I think definitely the game I want to watch, but I think still, if Man City beat Liverpool or United beat Liverpool, I think I'd get more angry when United beat Liverpool. I think that's still there,
Yeah.
but yeah, definitely to watch. I think right now I prefer Man City versus Liverpool. Personally, like I said, that's my favorite, one of my favorite games in football. So yeah, so
I think I think everyone hates losing to United.
Yeah.
yeah.
No one can stand them, especially the fans.
I know. No,
Terror
but
news.
speaking about rivalry, I think still Man United and Chelsea. Honestly, you guys are here. Chelsea, I don't like losing to Chelsea. I think this is the same for you guys. Don't like losing with Liverpool, right? Or what?
I think any top four rival,
Yeah,
top six rival. Sorry,
yeah,
I think
Yeah,
I'm the least upset when we lose to Man City, but then
yeah.
Man
because
City. Yeah,
they're kind of new on the block, we don't really have a historical rivalry or such.
Historical
But then
rivalry. Yeah,
I think for me, Liverpool is probably middle ground in terms of. I mean, I wouldn't be a very. I think I would be upset if we lose to United or Spurs more than any
yeah,
other team in the
yeah.
top six.
Yeah. I mean, we'll move on to the other games. I mean, we have Chelsea versus Sheffield. You guys can talk about that. Any surprises there, or do you see Chelsea again further piling on the misery for Chris Wilder's men? And then there's also Aston Villa versus Arsenal, another good game. How do you see those panning out? Now, Zan, you can go first.
yeah.
All right.
Anyway,
So,
geez.
Then you can go.
so I think, of course, speaking about Sheffield United, they
Yeah,
haven't started the season as brilliantly. I was seeing the Man City game the other day with Sheffield United, and they had 6, 7 men in the box, but there weren't any crosses going in,
Crosses.
and that was their main, skill point. Ollie McBurney and McGoldrick, they're not like the best strikers in the world, but then aerially they're just so good. They're center midfielders. They're tall, strong. They have
yeah,
good set piece fakers, good crossers, Baldock and Stevens. But
yeah,
then they're just not putting the ball in the net, and that's why they're in the bottom half, or I
yeah,
think they're even in the relegation zone if I'm not wrong. So
yeah,
I think Chelsea, they're finally finding a system, but I think I can see Lampard, setting up a little bit more conservatively.
yeah,
Even though we have the momentum and we're not conceding and we're scoring goals, but then I think there are certain teams, such as Leeds United, I think, where you have to set up differently to combat them. And I think Sheffield United is one of those teams, even though they're struggling.
yeah,
So I think we'll stick with a similar lineup,
yeah.
because of the Champions League having 5 subs. We've been able to rest some players. We're gonna miss 2 key players in Havertz, I think, because he got
Havertz.
COVID
It's
the other day.
COVID.
Get
COVID
well
seems.
soon, Havertz.
Yeah.
And Pulisic,
Yeah. Nigel.
there's kind of a doubt if he'll start. I don't think he'll start. I think he'll make the bench. But then
Yeah.
I think other than that, Chelsea, if they're focused and they've been playing the way they've been playing recently, then I think they should definitely be Sheffield United.
Yeah. Abu, Arsenal would win versus United, play Aston Villa, who've also done well. I mean, but lost, I think, their last two games. How do you see that one going? Any surprises? And then also probably talk about Spurs versus West Brom quickly. How do you see those games going? Before we'll discuss in the end United versus Everton.
No, I think it'll be pretty straightforward for Arsenal.
Yeah.
They've made a brilliant signing in Thomas Partey, and El Neni has also come back into Arteta's plans. That midfield double pivot is playing really well. Again,
Yeah.
they played really well against United as well. And Aubameyang didn't start the season that well. He didn't get many goals, but now that he's got a goal, I think his confidence will be back up.
Yeah.
And the defense, Arsenal's defense has been really good this season. with the additions of Gabriel and I think another defender.
Yeah.
And like you said, Aston Villa, they started off well, but now they've lost 2 games and they've conceded quite a few goals. So I don't see an upset in that game.
Yeah.
And which is the other game? Spurs versus?
I think Spurs versus West Brom. I think this should be comfortable for Spurs.
Yeah, West Brom's defense has been really poor.
Yeah.
They've conceded the most goals, I think, and Spurs obviously Kane and Son are working in tandem to create havoc.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that'll be a very straightforward win for Spurs.
Yeah. Then I wanted to ask you about the other game. I mean, Everton versus United. Everton obviously started off well. Then in the last, they're winless in the last 3 games. How do you see that game panning out? I think Everton slight favorites, but I think Hammers is also out. So, and then United also haven't been playing well, inconsistent. So again, interesting game. I mean, I think.
Yeah. I want to just briefly speak about both teams. So
Yeah.
starting with United, I think one thing I've noticed with Ollie is
Yeah.
their manager is, when the team is doing really bad, when there are questions being asked, is
Yeah.
this guy even competent enough?
Yeah.
That's when United all of a sudden just come out of nowhere. Then all United fans are happy for 2 weeks, and then
Yeah.
the same cycle continues.
Yeah.
So uh, I think there's a chance that might happen. Of course, you never know in football, but I think that's a big possibility. And of course, we've also seen Pochettino being linked.
Yeah.
So I think that's the thing with United. Will they be able to bounce back? Do the players actually still trust Ollie,
Yeah.
and are the players even competent? That's also a question being raised in
Yeah.
recent times. Speaking about Everton, I think you have to. I mean, you can see how much of a difference Hammers
Yeah.
has made to them.
Yeah.
Of course, they drew with Liverpool when he was there, but then the last 2 games when he didn't play or he barely played,
Yeah.
they ended up losing. So I think Sigurdsson at one point in time, he was really good
Yeah.
Premier League midfielder, but he's tailed off. I don't think he's
Yeah. He
not really
hasn't
that
like
top
hasn't kicked
6
on. Yeah.
quality kind of player. Yeah.
Yeah.
So is he a worthy replacement for
Hammers.
Hammers? We don't know. And then I think they missed Digne last game, who's of course one of the, in my opinion, one of the best left backs in the league. And they've also recently changed their goalkeeper. Pickford had been dropped, and Olsen, I think he played in the World Cup with Sweden.
Yeah.
He's in now.
Robin Olsen. Yeah. Yeah.
And I think they, Everton, they're a good team.
Yeah.
They have midfield balance this season. Calvert-Lewin, if you create for him, he will put it in the net. So
Yeah.
it depends on if the key players will start for Everton. If they do,
Yeah.
I think Richarlison is still suspended, if I'm not wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
I think
he'll be
one more game.
yeah, one more game. So he'll
Good
be a
luck.
big
Yeah.
miss. I don't think Iwobi is
Good enough.
I don't think he's good. I think he's mid-table standard,
Yeah.
if I'm
Yeah.
being honest. But Everton will miss some players, but it'll be, as you said, it'll be an interesting game. We don't know how United will come back and how
Right.
good Everton can respond.
Right. I mean, and then just if you could, I mean, I'm sharing the Premier League table right now. I just wanted to talk about, lastly, I mean, how do you see the title race going? I mean, it's very, very early, obviously, still 7 games in, just 38 games, long season. But in general, you slowly start to see patterns in November, December. I mean, who do you see then competing for the title this year? And also the top four, I mean, really close. I mean, if you see. I think that from the top to around.
Can I see the points? If you can maybe shift the screen a little bit.
You can't see it right
Is
now.
it? Oh, yeah, no. I can only see till lost. I can't see after that. But yeah.
Okay.
Anyways,
You can zoom in.
Let me just see. Oh yeah, now I can see it.
Yeah.
Okay. So
I mean,
yeah,
in
what were you
general,
saying?
I mean, in general, the title race. I mean, and the top four. How do you see shaping up? Obviously, early days, but who are a few teams? I mean, who look solid and who you think might be consistent? I mean, obviously, this is a weird season. You never know what might happen, but yeah, early days. But still.
So seeing the top four right now, I think Liverpool are rightly up
Yeah.
there. Spurs, I think, you know, I think they're rightly up there. Even
Yeah.
Everton, based on how they start. I think Leicester City will
Yeah. A bit of even
definitely drop off. Yeah,
okay.
I think
Yeah.
they'll drop off not because they're not a good team. I think they're a great team, but then uh, I think the way Brendan Rodgers he sets up his teams, he doesn't rotate all that much. He's had some injury problems, and
Yeah.
of course the way he plays brings a lot of injuries.
Yeah.
The season is going to be very short. He's going to
Yeah.
have the Europa League. I don't think Leicester will be able to maintain
Yeah.
that sort of intensity, but I think they'll obviously still finish top 10.
Yeah.
Southampton, I think they're a great side. They've
Yeah.
bought into Hasenhutl's ideas,
Yeah.
and I reckon they'll finish 10th. I don't
Right.
think they'll finish below, for example, a 12th or something.
Right.
And Wolves, no Europa League this season. They'll do well. They'll
Yeah.
probably fight for the Europa League spots. And then,
Yeah.
of course, you'll probably end up seeing Arsenal and Man City and
Yeah.
Man United, maybe, and of course, Chelsea climb up the table. So I think it'll still be your traditional top six. Maybe the way things are going, United might slip and Everton or some sort of team like that will take their
Yeah.
place.
I mean, so you think there's Abu will probably ask you also. There's no chance of Man City slipping out. I mean, they're currently 10th. I mean, if they lose to Liverpool, they're slowly. I mean, because Spurs are consistent. Leicester, whatever said and done, are pretty solid. And then Everton are doing well. Liverpool are up there, obviously. Chelsea will climb. I think I expect Chelsea to be there soon, top four, and around top three. And then Arsenal are doing well. Wolves again consistent. So I mean, it'll be interesting to see when we are heading in December what happens at the table.
Yeah, to answer your question about Man City, I think they're
Yeah,
really good enough to
yeah,
finish in the top two, top three. I don't think that'll be a problem for them once their attack starts firing and they get up to speed.
yeah.
And about challenging Liverpool, uh, I think Man City, Spurs, and Chelsea
Chelsea. Yeah,
uh, will be challenging for the title.
yeah,
Spurs, obviously, their first 11 is really good, but like Mourinho said in his previous press conference after Europa League, that when fans expect other players to start and then they ended up losing that game, he started
yeah,
those players. So
right.
yeah, Mourinho, I don't think he trusts his subs or reserves. I think
Yeah,
he
yeah,
he trusts only his playing 11,
yeah,
and a major injury to any of those key players might uh, hamper Tottenham's chances.
yeah.
And Chelsea, I actually think Chelsea have a good chance of challenging Chelsea for Liverpool for the title
Right.
because we've got some really good squad depth as well.
Yeah,
We've got good replacements for almost each position,
yeah,
and it'll be really crucial to keep Kante fit. He hasn't had that many injury problems this season like he did last two seasons. So I think Chelsea will challenge Liverpool for the title.
yeah,
And coming back to what Zian said, I think Leicester will not drop off that much. I think they'll probably be challenging for top six,
yeah,
and the traditional top six will obviously be up there. But I would not be surprised if United miss out,
yeah,
looking at the way things are going, and also they're linked to Pochettino. If Ole gets sacked and Pochettino comes, then obviously new manager, and then the atmosphere is different in the
yeah,
dressing room, and then suddenly team picks up form.
yeah,
So yeah, that could be dangerous. Also, Pochettino is a really good manager.
yeah,
Uh, but apart from that, I don't see any other teams coming into the top six. Everton, their first 11 is good, but like we've seen in the last two games without James and Richarlison, they've been poor. And yeah, that's pretty much it.
Fascinating. I think in general, I mean, before we leave, we just have 1 minute before the meeting ends. I think again, really nice podcast. Nice to talk to you guys, and looking forward to the weekend and the big game. Obviously, Man City with Liverpool. I think the Premier League in general this season, I'm really enjoying it because there's so many teams. I mean, top to bottom. I mean, Leeds, Aston Villa doing well, Everton, Wolves, Arsenal, Man City, the traditional top six. West Ham are doing decently. So really enjoying the Premier League. And yeah, that should be it for the podcast. Thank you guys, and we'll see you soon. Please like, share, and subscribe our podcast. And yeah, thank you.